Hi everyone, this is Paul Casey. Welcome to the Kenpo Minute. We'll be discussing Kenpo, principles, concepts, teachings, sometimes topical subjects, and we hope that you will like this page, subscribe to this page, and share. We look forward to seeing you at the Kenpo Minute. Thank you. Hi everyone, this is Paul Casey. Welcome to the Kenpo Minute, where we discuss many subjects relating to Kenpo, and we have special guests. Great honor today to have from the other side of the border up in the Northeast where it's cold, Mr. Jamie Seabrook. Master Seabrook has a school up there, and it's called Seabrook Martial Arts Academy. So please welcome Jamie to the show. Hello, Jamie. How you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me on the show again, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're one of my favorites because you bring a real energy to the discussion. So let's cut to the chase. In the Kenpo Minute, we take off all the extra things. We don't need to talk about all the extensions and all the other barnacles that are on the side of the ship. Let's get to the bottom line. Let's talk about, first of all, the stages of combat. I'm going to break it down simplistically. There is street combat, which is for life. Real deal. You're threatened, you know that, okay? It's what you train for. Then there's commercial karate or commercial combat, which is no contact with another. It's just by yourself, forms. Then you have light contact with another opponent. Then you have middle, medium, then you have full, and then you have street combat. The third facet of the stages that I think of it is the Hollywood segment, where we see people reenact fighting scenes that are supposed to be realistic. And good examples of that would be say Kung Fu with David Carradine in the 70s, Bruce Lee with his movie Enter the Dragon, and he brought in all the other aspects. Then you have the 80s movies, the best of the best with, and then you had Steven Seagal and, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have now the John Wick, series. And I have to ask you, Jamie, who can kill somebody with a pencil? 3 pencils in it, So there's the joke, folks. There's like these different stages. I'm coming into Seabrook Martial Arts Academy. How are you going to help me be a better martial arts and a path? It might be a short path. It could be a lifetime path with you. Help me to understand what you teach.
Well, I'd say first, Paul, that I've never had a student in all the years of running my school. I opened my school August the 1st of 1995 in London.
Congratulations.
Yeah, August 1st, 1995 in London, Ontario, and have never closed my school. Moved locations, yes, but I've never closed. So since August 1st, 95, and I've never had a student come into the doors and say, I would like to learn how to be a sport karate champion, or I would like to learn just about getting in better shape or better fitness. They all come in with the same, I want to learn self-defense. That is what I've experienced in London, Ontario. I want to, now that comes with physical benefits and better exercise, fitness, better mental health, but they all come in with the same, teach me how to defend myself.
Nobody's come in with a pencil yet?
No pencils yet. No.
Well, you watch. We're going to come with the pencil next. So let's talk about that. So what are your basic, without getting into your lesson plan, what is the overall goal? And I'm going to relate it to Ed Parker. Your background, tell us a little bit about that before we go down that path.
Yeah, sure. So I started Kenpo Karate in 1985 in London, Ontario. And I was part of the IKKA since right around that time. We were an affiliate member. And at the time, it was more, I would say, more of an offshoot American Kenpo / Tracy Kenpo system. And then around the late 80s, I got introduced to a lot of the American Kenpo Panther series out of Black Belt magazine. And I realized that a lot of the Kenpo that I was doing was not exactly matched to what we would see in Ed Parker's American Kenpo system. And then in around 1990, 91, I went the American Kenpo path and specifically have been on that path ever since. And I started in the WKKA, and I believe it was 1995. I started American Kenpo in 1990, but 95 I joined the WKKA, which at the time was headed by Joe Planzo, Frank Trejo, and Richard Huck-Planis, and continued on that path and got my 6th, 7th, and 8th degree under Grandmaster Larry Tatum most recently. And yeah, and I love American Kempo, and I believe it is the most complete martial art I've ever studied. I believe it is a street martial art, and that's kind of where I want to go with that in that particular path.
Let's address it. I always think of Mr. Parker's teaching. He likes threes, and that's because of his religious background and his beliefs. But in Kempo, we have the three divisions of the art: the basics, self-defense techniques, and then sparring. Okay, and you can dress that, but a bigger picture would be mindset, body, and the spirit that connects both. So, how do you address the mindset of a young martial artist, an intermediate martial artist, and the advanced martial artist that comes into your academy and help them on their path because they're seeking that with you?
One of the things I love so much about Kenpo Karate, and yeah, I guess I will address it, like maybe with respect to maybe what we see now more typical in MMA is a lot of times when people come in to join an MMA gym, they want to get tough really, really quick. They want to start fighting right away. And, a lot of them do get tough, Paul, but I would say that a lot maybe are lacking in skills because they're rushed to get into some type of a cage fighting scenario. And the way I look at it is the students are coming in, they want to learn self-defense as a beginner. I'm going to make sure they enjoy their lessons, improve their physical fitness, improve their mind, because mental health is huge. So they're leaving going, I got a very good I got a very good exercise program when I'm coming here. I'm improving my mental health and I'm learning how to defend myself at the same time. So if we start off with a basic self-defense technique like delayed sword, I say, okay, I'm going to increase my resistance as you get better. So I grab your lapel and you clear my arm and you kick me to the groin and you do a hand sword to the side of my neck. And then I say, okay, you're getting better at it. Let me give you a little bit more of resistance now. And I'm not going to make that quite so easy. But I also believe that things come in stages. So if as an instructor, I make it next to impossible for them to learn early on by giving too much resistance, students have less confidence in their ability to do the techniques. So I always make sure the resistance is minimal earlier until they build up their confidence to apply the move. And then I up the level of resistance. So as you get into orange belt and purple belt and so on, the resistance level goes up. And similarly in sparring, we're I've always been a sparring school. I like sparring because of the spontaneity of it and working on your distance management, your timing, your target selection, working on when to hit with power, when to reserve, when to breathe, when to exert more power than at other times, depending on who you're fighting. But even with sparring, Paul, I like to work up the level of resistance over time. So if I know there's different schools of thought for that, but if a beginner comes in and is consistently getting a bloody nose at yellow and orange belt, it's not a whole lot of fun. For a small percentage of people, it is. But for a large percentage, they're going, okay, I'm getting beat up every time I come in. So what I like to do is have them fight at a controlled level. And then as they build up their skills, then up how their level of contact and they have more confidence in their ability to evade. And the other thing I want to say too is that I always spar every one of my students. This is something I patterned myself after. And I had a Kung Fu instructor who was very much the same, Master Paul Chow. He fought everybody. And my goal in every time I fight is to be one step better than the student. If I'm 8 steps better, and you go, okay, that was a good humility lesson. I think too much of that, and they get down and they question their skills. But if I can be one step better, to me, that brings out the best in them in terms of their confidence, their timing. So I win, but not by that much. That's how I like to pattern the sparring at my school.
When I first went in to see Frank Trey, and I've said this to other people, I'm going to be brief on it. I walked in after about a 45 to an hour interview with him, asking, why am I there? He knew my teacher. He put me out on the mat. He got me in a horse stance. He said, you will first respect the school. You will respect this mat where these instructors have been, and you will respect this patch. If you can't do that, you must leave. And at that point, I said, sir, I'll take off my belt. I'm not here about that. I'm tired of being blocking with my face, so to speak. And he instilled in me one valuable lesson. That was, if you are not right here, you do not get in the ring. And how you do that is you have to build that confidence level. I think you're addressing it, but I want to go back. What do you do specifically to address the mindset? Because remember, the school is a safe haven for him. Mr. Parker had in his Infinite Insights the 8 considerations, and he talked about you have to have awareness of your environment. Understand that bad things happen, and there are bad people out there. And a lot of people have this false sense of security when they're in their car, their house, their business. We have children in a school that, unbeknownst to them, they all died this past week because of sick, evil mind. Evil minds are out there. So how do you instill into the student, listen, once you leave this school, understand is evil around there, and evil does not look like Frankenstein. How do you deal with that, Jamie? I sort of need to know what you would do to get that person every time to understand this is the real deal we're here.
Yeah, I would say confidence doesn't happen overnight. Some are on an easier path to confidence because it's very much linked to advantage or perhaps disadvantage in the home and how one has been brought up. So I take that into consideration. Many people I've taught have come from broken homes, broken families, kids, and whatnot. However, confidence is something that happens over time. So I'll give you an example, an analogy. For those that do know me, I'm an academic, and if I have a student defending a master's thesis and they say, I'm really nervous, Dr. Seabrook, because what if the examiner is asking me a question that I don't, and I always say the same. 3 people read your thesis, but you alone put 2 years of work into it. So there's no way those PhDs know your thesis as well as you did. The same analogy in martial arts. So it's like, okay, you're right, Paul. Out there, it's a totally different story when you leave the dojo. However, if I can have my students fighting against people of all body shapes, size, height, and they do it consistently and they learn how to take a shot, because we know the first couple times someone gets hit and they drop and they go, oh, I got hit hard. And then why is it that same student 6 months later, they get hit harder and they're fine? Well, they learn when to breathe, they learn when to move and absorb the shots and take the proper angles. So I tell my students, look, it's not pretty out there, but I will tell you one thing that I'll give you as an instructor. You've had more fights than the people that are out there because you've fought so many, not dozens of times, not hundreds of times, thousands of times against people who were trained over and over and over again. Now, I know it's not pretty because they can grab a beer bottle, they can grab a club. I get it. But the greater exposure that you have and the more frequent that exposure, the greater your confidence is in your ability to see things, the timing, the distance management, and how to hit the correct targets.
For those you don't know, Jamie has a doctorate. So that means he has several degrees, and he comes, like he said, from an educational background. In the past, Jamie, I've used the references of the greats. I always like to use a reference point. This is not Paul Casey's theory or opinion. It is based on proven, true writers that have studied combat, have studied war. And I always like to reference people like Sun Tzu. Know yourself, know your opponent, you will win every time. That doesn't mean the battle. That means you will choose that time because you know what he can do. You know what you can do. Know yourself, not know your opponent. You will only win 50% of the time. Don't know yourself, don't know him, you're dead every time, okay? That's how it works. Mm-hmm. The other guy is Miyamoto Musashi, the Book of 5 Rings. Train as if you are going into battle. You will not be confused. I've always used that when it comes to everything I've ever done. So I applaud you on what you're saying. I just think in the Kenpo community right now, there is a lack of intent. There's more of a showboating. There's more of, oh, I just want to look good. I want to wear a lot of rank. I want to be posing. And so let's get into those. And then we're gonna pick this up in the next part with you. But the conclusion on this is simple. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? Do you want to end up every time dying? Because you will. And inevitably, we all will pass away. But I just don't want to expedite that matter today. And I know you don't with yours. So with that, we're going to pick it up again. This is Paul Casey on behalf of the Kenpo Minute with Dr. Jamie Seabrook. Thank you for listening. And we'll hope that you'll sit in and watch our next episode of the Kenpo Minute. Salute.